Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to our Wednesday show on real estate education. In today's show we're doing a deep dive into the Brrrr strategy. We're going to do a two-part series this Wednesday and next Wednesday, and we're going to cover more in depth on each step of the Brrrr. So today we're going to cover how to buy your first property and how to rehab your first property. So hopefully you guys like it. If you do, make sure you smash the like button. Leave it in comments if you guys have questions or if you want me to cover something more specifically. And make sure you subscribe. Hey guys, welcome to the Ushanka studio. Let's dive into the Brrrr strategy. Deep dive into steps 1 and 2, the buy and the rehab. So everybody's situation is different. You might be renting today, you might be living in your own house, you might be still living with your parents. And whatever that situation is, for you to start the Brrrr strategy, your first investment property that you're going to buy needs to be in cash. That means you have to have a lump sum of money. So let's say you're renting today. What kind of steps can you take? If you're renting today, I would focus on increasing your credit score, meaning getting ready financially in order to be able to get a mortgage from the bank. So you want to focus on your credit score. On Monday I covered the 5 things I agree with Dave Ramsey, and those are excellent steps. Make sure you check out that video on how to get yourself out of debt, and that might be the ticket for you to raise your credit score, is get yourself out of personal debt. And let's say you got your credit in order and you're ready to purchase. Well, first you want to probably buy a place for yourself, and that makes sense because you want to be able to manage your own household, right? So you want to look for a place for yourself, and you want to buy something that's undervalued that you can put some sweat equity into, drive up that value, and then be able to pull out some equity. And another great way of doing that is if you buy a duplex. So if you buy a multifamily apartment, let's say it's a 2-unit, 3 or 4 unit, well, you can live in one of those and rent out the rest, which means your tenants are going to cover your bills. And the great part about it is you can get into these deals with FHA loans or like 5 or 3.5% down loans. So let's say you are a homeowner today already, and if you bought your place in the past, let's say 5 years, and you might still have a big mortgage on that property, you know, you might not have enough equity inside your house to be able to pull anything out. But you can also check with the bank. You know, you can get an appraisal on your house, see what kind of equity you have. And you realize that you have, you know, 70, 80, 90 or $100,000 in equity inside your walls of your house. You can pull that equity and start the Brrrr strategy. If you don't have those options, you have to get a little bit more creative. That means you have to start saving up some money, maybe working a second job. Possibly you might want to find a partner who has money and go in on a deal together. Maybe you'll manage the property and your partner, you know, brings the money. Maybe you'll do some rehab, you find that great deal. Start to become a little bit more creative. Another option is if, let's say, you have some money in your 401k. So let's say if you have $100,000 in your 401k, they allow you to borrow up to $50,000 in your 401k. So that could be another option to raise some capital. So you kind of have to think a little bit outside the box how you're going to do it, and that might be combinations of several things. Now, the first thing to do is obviously to buy, and that means figure out where you want to buy. Now, I recommend for anybody who's starting out to purchase only in markets you're familiar with. That means ideally in the market that you live in, because that's your home turf and you have home advantage. So I live in the Rust Belt, things are pretty affordable here, and I'm just going to speak from my experience. Okay, so you got the capital, now we want to look for the deal. And before we look for the deal, figure out what neighborhoods you want to buy in. Before you say yes to something, you have to figure out what you want to say no to. For me, I say no to certain neighborhoods because I know that crime rate is high and houses don't appreciate it as much in those neighborhoods. I also say no to houses that are over 75 years old because they have older plumbing, they have older electrical, they have older HVAC systems, and it just becomes a lot more harder to get them up to code. The other thing is you want to figure out what kind of setup of a house you're going to look for. Are you going to focus on multifamily? Are you going to focus on single family homes? So figure out what you want to do and specialize in one thing. Don't try to do all different things at once. You know, picking up single family homes, picking up some multifamily homes, storage units, apartment complexes, mobile home parks. Focus on one thing and get very good at it. Once you get good at it, you build systems and you apply those systems and you expand into other markets where you can be successful. So for me personally, I focus on single family homes because that's what I'm mostly familiar with. I grew up in a single family house. Most of my life I spent in a single family house. I kind of know the way that things work. So great. You figure out what you want to do and what you don't want to do. The next step is figure out, well, what kind of rents are you able to get in your market? Jump on realtor.com, apartments.com, zillow.com, facebook.com, craigslist.org. Look around, see what rents are. If you're looking for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, what is the rent? What is the rent for a 3-bedroom house? What's the rent for a 3-bedroom flat? Look at the areas, look at the zip codes. You want to have that advantage of knowing where you want to invest. Once you figure out the rent, well, now you're going to work backwards and figure out what's going to be the ceiling where you want to purchase at. Well, there's different types of rules. So sometimes you might hear like the 1% rule, meaning that you want to get into a place where you can get at least 1% for rent out of your purchase price. So let's say if you buy a $100,000 property, you want to get at least 1% of that in a monthly rent. So that'd be $1,000. That's like a rough calculation if you're in a time crunch. What you really want to do is figure out what your expenses are going to be in this place. Okay, so what expenses can we expect to have in a house? Well, the first thing is going to be, obviously, your loan. Then you're going to have property taxes. Then you're going to have insurance. Then you're going to have any utilities. Then you're going to have vacancy. And then you're going to have repairs. So these are your typical expenses that you will have on a rental property. And in this example, we're going to say that we're going to get a property for $80,000 and we're going to spend $20,000 in rehab. And let's say we're going to finance $100,000. Okay, so the loan on $100,000, we'll just use 4.5% at 30 years fixed rate. So this payment's going to be around $506. We'll just round it to $500 for math purposes. So this would be $500 per month. So $500 per month would be $6,000 per year. Property taxes, let's say that will be $2,500. Insurance, let's say it will be $500. Utilities, I like to have the tenants pay utilities. So I'm going to say 0 for that. Now, vacancy. Vacancy is any time that you have a lapse in your rent. If let's say your tenants move out at end of 12 months and you need to repaint the place or maybe clean the carpet, well, you're losing on that money. I like to just start out with, let's say, 5%. And let's say this place is going to rent for $1,000 per month. 5% of $1,000 is $50 per month. So that would be $600 per year. And repairs, do 5% for easy math. So we'll just say that's $600. Okay, so in this example, our total expenses are $10,200 per year. Now we said that we're going to rent this out for $1,000 a month. So that's $12,000 a year. So now we're going to subtract $12,000 minus $10,200, $1,800 a year. And if we divide $1,800 by 12, that's going to be $150 a month. So that's what we have left over. Now, in this example, this would be like the bare minimum I would want to make. Typically, you want to shoot for at least like $200 to $300 to $400. And again, it depends on your market. So in this example, well, what options do we have? The 3 variables that we have control over is purchase price, repair cost, and rent. So in this example, we're charging $1,000 per rent. We bought it for 80 grand. We invested $20,000 into repairs. And let's say you cannot find a place that's less than 80 grand and less than $20,000 in repairs. Well, what are your rents going for? So can this place rent for $1,200 a month? Can it rent for $1,300 a month? And this is what I mean, you want to work backwards. You want to analyze this deal where you have enough meat on the bone. So in this example, this would be very little meat on the bone. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to have enough meat on the bone to be able to cover any big expenses, like if your furnace goes out, say you need a roof replacement. Okay, once you get good enough at analyzing deals, meaning you're gonna look at different properties on the market that you have currently listed on Zillow, Realtor, any MLS listing. I want you to create a spreadsheet in Excel or Google Sheets where you can just plop a number in. Let's say you're gonna plop in the sale price, you're gonna plop in an estimate, repair costs, and a rent, and the spreadsheet's gonna run all this math for you. So when I look at deals, I kind of already have it in my head. I already know what the peak price would be in a certain area, what the peak rent would be, what amenities do I have, the square footage, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, is there a garage, is there a driveway, is there a dishwasher? Like, you want to get good at analyzing. That way when a property lists, you can run through the numbers, you can know if it's good for you or not, and you can jump on it if it's a deal that makes sense. Okay, let's say you found something that makes sense, right? And before you start calling up your realtor to go look at it, take a quick drive-by. If you're not familiar with that area, what's the neighborhood look like? Is it a neighborhood that looks a little sketchy? Is there a lot of drug activity? Do you hear gunshots? Or is it an area where you would be able to live in yourself? So you drove by, the place looks great, call up your realtor. Ideally, you want to have a realtor already on the hook. You want to let your realtor know what you're looking for, what you're looking to do. So set up an appointment with your realtor and walk through the property. Now, if you're new at looking at properties, you might want to find an inspector to go along with you, or maybe a buddy who's into construction and kind of take a look at this place. Or if you have other investors that you're friends with that wouldn't mind tagging along with you to check the place out. Be creative, find somebody. If you're not experienced, you can even look at YouTube videos on how to check out a property. So let's say you looked at it, numbers look great. Now you have to put in an offer, right? The advantage of doing Brrrr is that we have capital sitting in a bank. One thing we didn't talk about is calculating rehab costs. And this is where it's going to take experience. You need to figure out how much that would cost for labor. Before you dive into this, maybe find a handyman or find a contractor that can tag along with you when they're looking at a place, kind of give you a ballpark what you might expect to pay. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're looking to do any rehab, you want to do it smartly in a way that you're maximizing the money that you're putting into. Meaning that we're not looking to make the prettiest place on the block, we're looking to update the things that are needed to update. So if it's windows, if it's doors, if it has an old roof, we want to put a new roof on it. Those things that will bring its value up so that we can do the Brrrr perfectly. There's also cosmetic things that drive the price up, like an updated kitchen or updated flooring, new carpet, updated bathroom. Those type of things, typically are expensive upgrades, and a lot of older homes don't have that. So if we're buying a place that needs a new kitchen, we're able to drive that price up by, let's say, at least $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 if we are upgrading that kitchen. Okay, so we're putting our deal together, right? So we're offering cash depending on how hot the market is. Now, when I started investing in real estate, if a house was for sale for, let's say, $75,000, I could offer 70 grand and pick it up. Nowadays, the market's really hot and things are a little bit frothy. As long as your numbers work out, those 2 grand, they're not a deal breaker. So let's say a property costs $100,000 and there are multiple bids. Your realtor says, well, there's already a few bids on it. Well, run the numbers. Let's say if you offer 105, will you still cash flow? Will the numbers still work for you? Those couple of $1,000s might seem like a lot of money right now, but over the course of 20, 30 years, you're never going to remember that you paid 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 10 grand over asking price. Because if the numbers work, that's all that matters. As long as we can cash flow, as long as we can rent this place out, that's all that matters. Before you finish your rehab and you still have some little things to finish up here and there, some things to touch up. If this place already has majority of the work completed, snap some pictures, list it online, and that way you're becoming more efficient. Typically it takes a few weeks to get somebody in. I recommend listing on Zillow, Realtor, Facebook.com. Those are all great places to get some great tenants. What I've learned over the past few years is that you want to have efficiency, that you are using the same paint in all of your places, same fixtures, the same type of cabinets, countertops. That way when you build these systems and efficiencies, you're not thinking like, oh, what color paint do I have in this house on 10th Street, or what color cabinets do I have on 42nd Street? You already know that it's the same everywhere, right? And these efficiencies help you stay on track, help you focus on big things, and save you headaches and save you money in the long run. So pick those paint colors, pick those suppliers. Like I pick one supplier, I go through Lowe's on everything. I use the Pro Desk. I mean, sometimes I save 30-40% on some of these items. Hopefully I covered most of the stuff. We're gonna be covering the second part of Brrrr, which is renting out your property and refinancing your property. But like I said, the hardest part is to do the purchase, where 95% of all roadblocks happen because people have analysis paralysis. Better to find a deal than to wait around 10 years to find the perfect deal. All right, hopefully that made sense. If you guys like this video, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe. We'll see you on Friday.